Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Agnieszka Rojek and this is my information channel. I'm making this recording for NSA. I have sent an origination of communication. Considering my situation, I thought it was a good move to make. So I initiated the contact and I believe it's good to say a few words about myself, about the situation. So, to start with, once again, my name is Agnieszka Rojek. My second name is Beata. I was born in Krakow in 1974 on the 27th of September. My mother's name is Barbara Urbanek. My father's name is Bronisław Rojek. I am Polish, of course. My situation has become difficult for no obvious reason. So I don't really know how to approach the subject. Let me take this sort of interactive approach and see what comes up in my mind, which I'm going to discuss. Perhaps not discuss, but to inform you on. So, what do you want to know? The first thing that comes to my mind is Barack Obama. Apparently, I have created a conflict between me and Barack Obama, the president of the USA, which is very serious. Some of my posts on Twitter may be really scary. So, what did I do? Well, I'm not sure. Let's get the history of my relationship with Barack Obama. Relationship, of course, not meant as a personal face-to-face meeting and development of something stable like friendship, but how we operate as two persons. Barack Obama wanted to be a president. I did not follow the campaign at the time. I was making my first steps. I was taking courage to write my first notes on politics. It was Tomasz Lis's site, Tomasz Lis na żywo. And I made this unfortunate comment on Barack Obama. I did see the singer, a young woman, singing, "I am in love with Obama." I was an innocent girl, as I am now, only now I have been fed with some non-innocent experience against my will. But all the same, at the time, I just saw a young woman. I didn't know anything about her sexual preferences, obviously. She just seemed sweet and she seemed to be a supporter. So I made this unfortunate joke that I could actually say I was in love with Obama too, which had nothing to do, of course, with my being in love or whatever. I simply liked him, and at the time I voted, I was supporting the left wing. I thought I was the left wing. I got corrected. I did not make any. I did not bind. I didn't. There were no ties, nothing binding at the time that could make me the left wing. And I did mention his wife. I really liked his wife for her education in law. For me, law has always been this top standard. So if you, of course, I appreciate scientists too, but if you think of some sort of prestige, law counted intuitively most. So it was great that there was the woman who was the lawyer, and this is why I liked her. And that was more or less all I knew about Barack Obama. I think this point might have been picked up by some people who meant to destroy my life and not to create any sort of positive relationship between me and Barack Obama. So how does the situation develop? Time passes by, and then Barack Obama starts functioning as the president of the United States. I become more and more interested in politics after the crisis of the Veronese Gallery in 2009. I switched to Facebook. I like some profiles. I learn more and more. Generally, my attitude is that I have lost my life. However, I still have this team, so I'm running on this team. At the time, I thought that I would die within the next year. It was quite unexpected for me that the switch happened, and I did start working in a different direction, so to say. So I changed this direction towards death, into back towards life. But then I did not know that, and generally I had this idea of doing what I can, what I still can, because I was interested in at the time were the causes on the Polish ground, which are rooted in my work experience mostly. Uh, One of them was poverty, which goes beyond my work experience, but has to do with my family history too. Uh, but on the international stage, it was first and foremost counteracting terrorism or fighting with terrorism, which I reformulated, rephrased as solving the problem of terrorism. And then there was Tibet, the free Tibet. I always believed in the independent Tibet. Uh, when I was working in the Veronese Gallery, another point came up quite unexpectedly, and it came up in a conversation with a Jew. There was an old Jew. I think, well, he had some problems with his brain. I'm not sure what it was exactly, apart from his having a polio. And he, as he was at one point, we had some sort of conflict, and as he was taking his farewell, uh, he thanked me for everything. I treated him with coffee and listened to him for a long time, kept him company. And as he thanked me, I gave him this totally unexpected answer. I hope you will remember it when we meet in Palestine. So it was as if I became a Muslim at one point, and Palestine became my cause. Um, I believe it might have to do with John Paul II. I was not aware of his role in my life by the time, but it must have been surfacing gradually. But it's also possible that there was some other connection, because in time it turned out that I had some spiritual connection to Yasser Arafat. There were also other things coming into play. So perhaps it is important to make this sort of installation of a subject, this terrorism, once we are talking about, because these are related. So the whole problem of terrorism in my life started earlier, before 2001. I was preparing for my oral examination in English, and one of the things that I had to catch up with was reading newspapers. Before, I had not read newspapers. Afterwards, I did not read newspapers. But at that time, I started reading newspapers. And it so happened that at the time there was an attack on the American embassies in Africa or somewhere there. I don't remember exactly. As I'm saying, I was not aware politically or geopolitically or in any or historically at the time at all. So there's like some kind of anchor, attention anchor, that you remember sometime later. And what I remembered then was that I really didn't want the United States to go into the revenge, and that theme recurs again when there was the 2001 attack. However, at that time, I had a totally different attitude, and it's also important to mention that at that time I was almost done with my MA thesis. And my MA thesis, which was a shock for me, because suddenly I started writing about the subject of war, analyzing war. So this is a sort of spiritual connection that started working in my life. One could say against my will. Um, and the MA thesis is included in my collection of all data, one of my Vimeo sites. And then there was the attack. And on that day, my life changed completely. I changed it. I moved to a different plateau, different plane, and I started operating there. It is uncertain why I did it. For some reason, I can say that for me it was a breaking of some unwritten contract between human beings, so to say. I can't explain it really. So I did change my life then. I went to do my training at St. Hill. At the time, I believed that Scientology was the best competence I could get. And I did get the competence I wanted to get. Then it seemed that I was not busy myself with the problem up to 2003. But actually, it was always part of my life, which proved, for example, in the school in Nishki, when we had this devastating situation, devastating as far as my public relations go, of me picking up my pupils, well, the lunch, the things they put on their tables, and throwing them into the bucket, which caused a major outrage of religious sentiment nature. To cut a long story short, the people that took it as a sacrilege, as an attack on Jesus Christ. They identified sandwiches, the bread in sandwiches, with the sacred value of bread in the religious sense. That was not correct, but it doesn't matter because we are not talking about correct things. Now, what the point I'm making is that actually even there was this very strong awareness developing, and the lesson I received then was really the lesson about Muslims for me. And there were many situations like that. There was the situation with the, for example, if you take the Jewish context, it was most unexpected. I'm saying, well, I was not interested in politics, history, etc. My focus was different at the time. So when I saw saints on our class board, I had no idea that it was a commemoration of the closing of the camps, the Nazi camps in Poland, extermination camps. Well, because these were Catholic saints, I thought that I was being indoctrinated again. And then you have another lesson coming out from this, because for me there was nothing Jewish there. So, or anything to do with the Romans, and the gypsy people. So this awareness was with me all the time. However, I was not devoting my attention particularly to the area. It came up again later on. Of course, there were situations that I had a sense of a terrorist attack being about to happen intuitively. And there was one scary situation when I watched a Bollywood movie. This is Fana, however you pronounce it. I was crying watching this movie, and this felt so real. So I was wondering whether I did not have a connection with someone who actually became a terrorist, which is a very important context because it seems really real. My perception of the whole thing, my looking for the truth behind this phenomena of terrorism is of a totally different nature from what we are given. And I think this is why we have this misunderstanding with the United States. So we are arriving at the point where we can depart, or we can try to understand why you view it differently and I view it differently. You are probably taking this strong nationalistic perception, which makes you see the enemy. Obviously, if someone attacks you on that scale, this is the enemy. But on the other hand, this is a development in the history of the world, in the history of the humankind. And I'm taking those necessary steps which aim at solving the problem of terrorism, which means arriving at the point where terrorism is no longer needed, not to mention necessary, because I believe from the research I have done, for now, from the extremist point of view, terrorism is necessary. And I believe Margaret Thatcher did believe she could solve the problem of terrorism on her ground. So I do believe we can solve the problem of terrorism on our global stage if we take the upper view. Of course, that meant I had to go into some sort of contact, because if you mediate, and I make this postulate, which is a causative thought of becoming a mediator in the conflict in 2001, and it is actually put in writing because I sent it to Misha, to the Los Angeles top management of the Church of Scientology. I had this contact. He was a very high echelon officer, and he asked me then how do you negotiate with terrorists? And I say I don't know, but I'm pretty sure you can. And I don't mean you buying not slaves but prisoners or hostages. I mean arriving at the solution of the problem. So you must have it clear, because I started working on it in 2001, and we arrived at 2009, where people started messing up with my virginity. So all the time I had devoted to preparing for actually going to Pakistan and being able to face Osama bin Laden and talk to him had been being wasted. So this is the right perspective for what started happening in 2009. Then I did have this um, interaction with all sorts of people through Facebook. I had this friend in Pakistan, and I did post on his site. There were all sorts of people there. I didn't know his friends, of course. I mean, they're Facebook friends. They don't need to be his real friends, real life friends, but it could be anyone. I was not aware of it actually, but it was also, as I told you, this like you have this team and you know you might not have it soon, so you use it to the full when you still can. So this was my attitude. I had this perspective that I would die within a year, and then it just was taking another step and another step and going a bit further with the door. Um, to sum up, when I had this also this intuition that there was something wrong. So this is when I posted that perhaps I could marry Osama bin Laden. Because, you know, this is my sense of humor. This is shocking for me what you make out of this, especially that you immediately go into sexual connotations. Like for me, even if I want to marry someone, you have to take so many steps before you actually arrive at sex. That the attitudes I have been confronted with are really unthinkable and insulting for me. Uh, it was a joke, of course. The point I was trying to make was that, well, I feel hopeless. I do not know how to solve this problem. So let's think of something, perhaps something extraordinary. I don't know, perhaps he somehow understood this pure intention in me, because I believe that he connected me to his people. And this is not an abusive connection. I don't think he ever abused me. I do think that he let me into this something that you perceive as unthinkable, but something that I did put in my overall project of developing my own think tank, so to say, for the purpose of that recording, where I wanted to understand the Muslim mysticism, and I chose Osama bin Laden. If you look at in Sufism, in Sufi, when you look at the attributes of Allah, you actually see that there is this attribute of the vengeful God. So it goes into the mystical matrix. Now, to understand it is perhaps beyond what we are used to think in the schemata, you know, the brain. The Assangists call it wiring. I don't like calling it wiring because this is too robotic for me. I prefer the cognitive idea of schemata. So you somehow reject it because it does not correspond to your reality at all. But on the other hand, if you talk across cultures, you must acquire this skill of overcoming it and taking this totally different perspective. And what I want to emphasize now is that I always believed that Barack Obama could have it. I really felt that he was the guy, for me, he was the guy to talk to if we are to talk foreign politics. That he did understand that it is not bad Muslims always. And that perhaps because he's connected with the Indonesia, um, perhaps because he has some other. I really don't know Barack Obama's brain makeup, but I do sense it. And you must understand it that my support for Barack Obama was an enormous act of courage and breaking through for me, because I am connected with the Church of Scientology. And to say a good word about Barack Obama in the Church of Scientology is, it is not a faux pas. It is almost like a crime. Barack Obama, or a Scientologist, is a psychiatry man. He is the embodiment of harm, of psychiatric abuse. So I was really making a huge peace process move. And I was risking a lot. And of course, my standing with the Church of Scientology went down immediately, because this is immediate rejection. So, well, fortunately, my standing with the Church of Scientology is very good, because I haven't got a single overt against the Scientology, the people, the church. So I am pure, which makes me quite comfortable, because if they strike at me, it will strike back at them with such a force that it will just sweep them off the planet Earth, depending on the power of their strike at me. But you know, this is not nice, because obviously you want people to appreciate you, and basically what you get is only the negative feedback, because you are doing something unthinkable. So this is the context in which I was still supporting Barack Obama, and there's this question whether it's right or whether it's wrong. Imagine the man is really bad and this is all talk. Well, I have the collection of the speeches, and I believe that even if he were not the speech, the existence of the speech, putting the speech there is really a step forward. I do believe in the speeches, not in the sense of them being true, but in the sense of them having the potential to carry an intention. So this is quite important, what you put in your speech, or the postulate you make. Now, of course, I always wanted something more, especially as far as the Tibet is concerned, because I do think that this is that whatever Barack Obama says about Tibet is just to, you know, to keep us calm, to give us a sense of good feeling that something is being done, while it is not, in fact, as far as the superpowers of the world are concerned. The only people who can help Tibetans are the Chinese, paradoxically enough. I mean, the Chinese, the government of the People's Republic of China have become aware of this, so I know that this is the only advocacy for me now. So still postulating some things, like making this a causative thought by making it part of the speech, is a step forward. This is the overall framework of reference for the development of the relationship with the United States and Barack Obama. It needs to be emphasized that I truly believe in it, that the United States have this holy obligation, and that the saving the ancient Tibetans is a redemption for what they have done to the Amerindians. Amerindians, this is how you call them. I don't remember exactly, but you know, this is the indigenous people. I mean, the inhabitants, the real people of the America. And this is not that because I mean, you know, they don't have too much to be proud of in that sense. Let us be honest. This is why I thought that the United States should really get involved. Well, it was time for it because by now the situation has changed enormously, and as I'm saying, now the only people who can help the Tibetans are the government of the People's Republic of China, the rulers of the people, the rulers in the government. Um, and then what do we have? Suddenly, the whole situation changes into a sexual context. And this is unforgivable. I don't understand why you decided to lose all that potential that they had to turn it into sex. It's unclear for me. And I must emphasize that I also don't know who did what in terms of interfering with my intimate sphere of life. I was attacked at home, and I didn't know it even then. I knew it only in the evening when I watched the news and I saw Radek Sikorski with journalists, a sort of press conference, but just a few words, a short interview, not really a press conference. And I heard my sigh in the background. Imagine the shock. How come? So as I'm saying, I don't know who did what. I know I know that where I was, that there was a fault because the situation was I was watching TV and suddenly I had this powerful magnetic attraction or sense of powerful magnetism connected with Mr. Medvedev, Dmitry Medvedev, who was the president at the time. So I switched the TV off, and the TV was off. So I was off it all. Well, I was actually running away to Pakistan, which created a major confusion and problem. But then, sometime later, I could see that I was looking like Barack Obama. So I don't know if it was like, if there was some connection, if Barack Obama was messing up with me too or not. Because it was not happening with my consent. I never agreed to be a public person. It was years later that I was able to approach certain events in my brain. It was only at the end of 2014 when I published my subjective calendar, and I did not even think of it. It was like, you know, a suspended life, like you have a rape and you don't think of the rape, you just try to live on, not focusing on it at all, being busy all the time, not thinking about what happened, just living aside. So, as I'm saying, I had no idea Barack Obama was involved in it, and I don't know if he was or if he wasn't. Just making the point because then in one of the recordings, later recordings, I realized that I had his face. I mean, maybe not his face, but it seemed like his face. And so I was not aware of it. And then it turns out I have a huge conflict with Barack Obama. I don't understand at all. So at one point I start having all this noise around me, those people discussing all sorts of things and telling me all sorts of things that can be true or not. And then we arrive at the cartoon, at the icon I drew, the banana one. And I suddenly learned that I was a racist. How come? I had never been a racist, and the cartoon was a support, not a criticism. So, what was in your brain that made you think I wanted to attack you with the banana rather than pick it up and throw it back at the person who threw it at you? And then there was another situation when there was the Boko Haram and the girls, and Michelle Obama was appealing for support for the girls. And then I drew this picture when I drew a woman, and she's a combination. I gave her Michelle Obama's legs because she has, well, I have fat and short legs, and she has long and slim legs. So this is perhaps someone has something about her leg against her legs, but from my perspective, it was like tall woman, so good. And but then I understood that it was not really fortunate because it might have been also insulting for the Boko Haram. It did not really work my way, but this is like you can make mistakes. It's important what you do when such a situation occurs. I made her very elegant. I was very meticulous with each little flower to make it, like perfect elegance. She was holding a cat, which is a symbol of purity. She happens to have my neighbor's Christian face, even if she is black, because she obviously was to be black. And she has the eagle. And the eagle was to be African. For some reason, it seems that it was taken as the American one. So it was to be the symbol, was to be her power, the delicate woman that can somehow. It was to be the spirit appealing to the people there, asking for the. It was supposed to be tribal. It was supposed to. I can't explain it. When I was creating this picture, I was in a totally different space, spiritual space, so to say. I don't know. I am certain that this did touch the strings I wanted to touch, but of course, my requests don't have to be granted. That's obvious too. But I appealed for also for the right of education for those women in those extreme masculine circles too. Each step made that way is a huge risk. So I must say, I really don't understand the treatment I have been given. It needs to be emphasized that I receive no money. I receive no benefits. I risk a lot. And this is the real context of our conflict. I don't know, what questions do you have? Well, as for the gay issues, I was treated with excrements. So, I had always been for I had always been supporting the people, and what I received in return, excrements, my heart chakra, my beautiful chakra, my beautiful space was tainted with excrements and other disgusting substances or qualities. Then I was connected to LGBT, LG, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transvestite. So I mean, and then they merged a transvestite with me. I was merged with gay people. I mean, why? Why was anybody to have access to my body? And then I was being abused. So, you know, if you check my Facebook, you will see the development of the abuse. And this is really a record of the accumulation. This is an emotional record. So these are years of torture. Before I started praying for the death of my oppressors, I don't understand what you don't understand about it because it's clear. And you know, this is the situation in Poland proved devastating, which is also unthinkable. So did not plan. Actually, I did not plan any attack on Barack Obama, meaning that his death until it seemed that it was Barack Obama abusing me sexually personally. So this is a point to clear up. But you know, I had always protected Barack Obama when he was in Poland for the first time. I even went into this. I really don't know why I did it, but I did it. I don't know. I just had it. Just switched in the mode. I remember. I did the same thing when Dalai Lama arrived. When Dalai Lama was to be at the Collegium Novum, the day before I went there to make sure that he was safe. So this was a family switch. So I had the same thing of observing when Barack Obama arrived to Poland for the first time, and then when he arrived to Poland for the second time, I was it was 2014, I think. I was not able to listen to Donald Tusk and other people talking about freedom in Poland anymore because I had been a victim of abuse, unthinkable abuse by the time, which I did not understand at all because, as you may gather, I still haven't arrived at the answer to the question what on earth? I mean, what is it? What is it all about? But then, as the situation was developing, all sorts of ideas were coming up, and setting the question of Barack Obama's supposed pedophilia aside, which makes him order the CIA action of framing me into pedophilia so that they could connect the pedophilia quality to someone. I'm joking, but only partially. So it's that there are other questions, like I started asking myself if the United States were not really behind the Smolensk catastrophe. And I think this is the point when the conflict started to be really serious, because that means I accused the president of the United States of killing the president of Poland in 2010. Well, we are in a very difficult situation. It is very difficult for me personally to speak up for Poland. But on the other hand, I have been involved by spirits of a huge caliber, and this is not only John Paul II, this is also Jerzy Popiełuszko, which is scary considering the development of his life. I always say I hope I will not die and I will not be beaten up, but there's something more. I don't know, perhaps saying that Lech Kaczyński is asking for the proper investigation is saying too much. But certainly, I have the king of Poland. I don't know which one it is, whether this is Władysław Jagiełło, I don't know how to say it in English even, or some other king. But I know that the king of Poland, I think, of a powerful Poland, is asking for Poland. And I have been given this request. That's more or less what I want to say on the subject. Well, I know that this is very how to say it, that I'm losing people when I say that I wish your daughters dead or rapes. But I have been being raped every day for years. And in March, it went into an unthinkable intensity of the blowjob rape. And no one cares. Why? And I cannot say that I wish you the same because you are not a virgin. And there's another factor that you might not understand if you are left wing, because you assume that all men are equal, and generally in the United States you assume that all men are equal, are created equal, and so on. But if you take the Eastern, the reincarnation point of view, it is not true because we have been working for what we are now. And I am at a very high spiritual level. So what you have done to me is not comparable to what you can do to your wife. It will never be, because your wife is sexual. I am spiritual. You have done an unthinkable harm to me. You have deprived me of life, factually. Perhaps I can leave it here. Whatever questions you might have concerning specifics, you may always ask. I don't believe that it is impossible for the president of the United States or a CIA agent to really reach me on the phone. So even if someone was trying to reach me and the call was redirected, I am certain the CIA agent can know that he is not talking to the right person unless he's an incompetent agent, which should not be the case. When I was in the USA in 2005, I went to Chicago and I saw a job ad for CIA, and I wanted to. I had this immediate impulse of having to go there and report ready for I wanted to say ready for action, but it was not ready for duty. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I did have this sense of going there. Something stopped me from that. Perhaps it was a saving factor which gave me a few years of life more, but on the other hand, the situation has got so complex that I did get in contact with the CIA. As far as the director, the deputy director of the CIA is concerned, this is an unexpected development for me. I was not aware when I saw him first. I thought I had this idea that Brennan was actually training me into pedophilia, and he was not helping me. So I thought he was against me. And then I saw David Cohen, and I thought, oh, but perhaps I could address him because this is like, even if they are friends, they kind of have a different viewpoints. Probably CIA is not a temple of saints, but you do have certain priorities and the hierarchy of values. I was not aware that there can be any spiritual connection between me and him when I started the contact by putting some notes on my Twitter account. I hoped that they would be picked up by the name. Obviously, if I use the name of the deputy director on Twitter of CIA, and there is the CIA word too, it should be picked up by the CIA immediately. So I hope that I could get through and break through to him. And I did have this sense of, okay, so probably I need to get to CIA no matter what the problem is, but perhaps there's some communication I need to make which is vitally important because my overall existence, my history, personal history corresponds to the history of the world, and I know it. As for the personal context, it came up when I was when I was watching one of his videos, and then I saw what was happening there, and then I realized, oh my God, this is him. So I'm really disgusted with the overall attitudes because okay, even if I said, wow, I mean, I know he's married and he may be in all sorts of relationships, but even when I say, oh, this is my future husband or whatever of the kind, it is very insulting for me that you think of it in sexual terms because he has not asked me out yet. And I have not said yes yet. I mean, I did not agree for a cup of coffee yet. Well, okay, that I might have agreed for, but the, your etiquette is totally unacceptable for me. So you have created a wall. Withdraw from it. So I want those two lines to be treated separately. I personally, I believe we have some kind of karmic relationship. I believe that David might not be aware of it because he's probably involved with such powerful, unspiritual influences or superpowers now that he might have lost this spiritual identity that goes from throughout the ages, but I have not. So I am certain, whichever way he's gone, I'm certain that we have this spiritual connection, and that it is important that we meet one day. And I strongly object against making sex, not to mention a porn thing out of it. I am a virgin. I have always believed in, well, never at first sight too, but in the one and only love that lasts a lifetime or beyond. Um, I did meet such a person. He happens to be a Scientologist, but our lifelines seem to have parted. And actually, he was unbeatable until the David Hahn appearance. So I don't know how it's going to develop, but I really ask you to rethink your attitudes, because my potential is totally limited, and you won't get any replacement because it's impossible. Um, as a teacher, I was a great teacher. I loved my pupils. You are dealing with a massive attack that has totally different. Um, the reasons for this attack are totally different. Now, I don't know what Maya Rostowska's problem is, but trust me, the only thing I did to her was writing a comment saying that employing her was a case of nepotism. You might not believe it, but I did not have a thought of her sexual involvement with Radek Sikorski at all. Because I really believe that that the only person Radek Sikorski was having sex with was an Applebaum. I really believed it. I did believe that he could um, divorce his wife when I was in love with him sometime earlier. I knew he would not, when we were celebrating the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, and he started talking about her, that I knew, oh no, 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 definitely he's in love with her, so he would not divorce her. But to reduce my interest in Radek Sikorski to me thinking of him in terms of sucking his penis is not doing justice neither to me nor to him, to be honest. This is reducing him to his penis to a totally pathetic person. So perhaps we should rethink Maya Rostowska. I think that would be all for today. Of course, I have no pedophile interests or tendencies. I have no aberrations, no perversions. I'm totally heterosexual. And I want to withdraw now. And probably this is the information I wanted to deliver now. I don't know what other information you want, but let us have it as the starting point. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope, well, if it can't be a perfect resolution of our conflict, at least perhaps we can make a step forward, because so far we have been going into the nuclear war with a domino effect, destroying the whole world, not to mention that the abuse going on and on was actually making this huge chunk of space rock go straight at the planet Earth to blow it up for me, and the answer to you blowing up my beautiful world.